Greetings and welcome to the channel Love of the Truth. We've been looking at some questions that people would like to ask God from a list that I found online. And today I thought we would look at the question or the statement that the scriptures are outdated, the complaint that some believe that the scriptures are outdated. I wanted to separate. There was a different question listed dealing with science versus the Bible, so that concept is going to be addressed in a future video, Lord willing. But today I thought we would look at the concept that the advice in the scriptures and the condemnation of some behavior, the commendation of other types of behavior is outdated, that civilization has grown beyond the scriptures. As I see it, the scriptures are very clear that there isn't any new kind of sin, that from creation, mankind has had temptations that have been consistent. Not that each person is exactly the same as others in what they are tempted to do, but that there really are no new temptations. Civilization has advanced as far as some inventions that have made some kinds of sin easier, more accessible, whatever the influence of technology might be. But there really aren't new sins. The categories are still the same. There's the 10 Commandments basically still address the temptations that man has. The scriptures acknowledge that civilization would change, that evil men and seducers would wax worse and worse, that civilization, like what happened prior to the flood, that the last days are going to be filled with sin, that civilization will get worse. The scriptures state that there really is no new thing. In Ecclesiastes 1 verses 9 and 10, Solomon wrote, "The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun. Is there anything whereof it may be said, See, this is new? It hath been already of old time, which was before us." So the scriptures state, and it is substantiated by history, that mankind has temptations and inclinations that have been consistent from the very beginning. And God doesn't change. The scriptures state that God is from everlasting to everlasting, and that he is not affected by time in that sense. In Psalm 90 verses 1 through 4, "Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were born, or you gave birth to the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You turn man back into dust and say, Return, O children of men. For 1,000 years in your sight are like yesterday when it passes by, or as a watch in the night." God has stayed the same forever, from everlasting to everlasting. His values and his ideals, his sense of justice, his sense of righteousness, those things have never changed. There are some details about the laws that have changed, but still the underlying principles are exactly the same. God doesn't have a different standard just because civilization has moved on for a couple thousand years. So there is no sense in which the scriptures are outdated in God's assessment, God's valuing of mankind, of civilization. The fact that civilization does change and is foretold to be changing is possibly summed up best in 2 Timothy 3. But I realize this, that in the last days difficult times will come. For men will be lovers of self, lovers of money, boastful, arrogant, revilers, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy, unloving, irreconcilable, malicious gossips, without self-control, brutal, haters of good, treacherous, reckless, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. So this, as well as many other texts, foretell that God knew that mankind was going to go downhill, that civilization was going to get worse, to the point that he is eventually going to send his son to destroy this civilization and to set up a worldwide kingdom. There are a number of scriptures that list sins, and I thought it would be interesting to look at a couple of those and just see whether these are still contemporary today. The first one is 1 Corinthians 6, verses 9 and 10. Or do you not know that the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived. Neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor homosexuals, nor thieves, nor the covetous, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor swindlers will inherit the kingdom of God. The lists in the scriptures of sins are definitely things that we still see as evils in society today. It's certainly true that society today has discredited or discounted the biblical instruction that their behavior is inappropriate, that their behavior is sin. But there's no new sins. In Galatians 5, we see a list of sins and a list of righteous behavior. Let's take a look at that. Let's start with Galatians 5, 19 through 22. Now the deeds of the flesh are evident, which are immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmities, strife, jealousy, outbursts of anger, disputes, dissensions, factions, envying, drunkenness, carousing, and things like these, of which I forewarn you, just as I have forewarned you, that those who practice such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. Granted, a lot of those things listed there are fairly general categories, but that really is an accurate observation of human behavior, that the product of sinful nature, of our cravings to do things that are wrong, hasn't changed. Those things have stayed consistent from creation, and there are no new categories of sin that would give us an excuse for saying that the scriptures are no longer relevant or that the scriptures are outdated. On the other side of the coin, the scriptures indicate behaviors that are approved by God, and those things are listed in the next few verses there. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. So the behaviors that the scriptures identify as sinful and the behaviors that the scriptures identify as righteous are exactly the same today as they were when the scriptures were written, and will be exactly the same because these values are determined by God, who doesn't change. He still hates the kind of behaviors that he always has hated, and he still loves the kind of behaviors that he always has loved. So there is no new thing in that context. There are some new technologies, but those really don't affect in a big way human nature. They facilitate, in some cases, human nature, but they don't alter it. So, as always, I welcome any comments or questions, suggestions of other topics. I look forward to visiting with you again, and have a great day.